What should I use to kill Japanese stiltgrass? Will Turf Trust work on my zoysia grass? And how do I prevent my basil plants from going to seed? Folks, I have answers to these questions and more coming up on Garden Sense. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Well, folks, I couldn't believe it, but I had several dozen emails come through just between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this past weekend, so I was quite busy, and I'll be honest with you, we've been quite busy here over at Rosen's Online, shipping out the product that you guys order from us, and we really, really appreciate those orders. Each and every order that comes through is really important to us, so thank you for your continued support to Rosen's Online. So, folks, out of all those emails, I actually picked 5 that we want to review here today. So, buckle up, everybody. Let's jump right in. The first question is from Sylvia. Tim, I purchased a bag of Barenbrug grass seed 2 years ago and have not used it. It has never been opened. Is the seed still viable? I have stored it in my house. So when it comes to storing seed, you need to make sure that you are keeping it out of the light. You need to make sure that no moisture is getting in the bag. And so because I don't really have those two pieces of information, I can't really tell you if it's, 100% going to work or not. Now, certain types of seed can last 3 to 5 years, even longer if they are stored properly. Now, I know you said you left it in the bag and it was inside your house, but again, what was the temperature in your house? What was the humidity like? One way to tell if it's actually still viable is to open it up when you think you're going to be ready to seed. And if you were seeing any mold or fungus inside the bag or within the seed itself as you kind of run your hands through it, that's usually a telltale sign that moisture did get in there, and there's a good chance the seed is no longer viable. But if you open that bag up and it looks really, really dry, then yeah, there's a very good chance that you can still use it. Now, I will caution you that the germination rate is going to be a lot less. Barenbrug seed is a very high quality seed, and it has a very high germination rate, usually in that 90 percentile or higher, which means 90% of that seeds are going to produce new grass. That can drop pretty quickly over the course of several months, and in your case, 2 years. So, if you're going to use it, which I believe if you check it out, it'll probably be fine and you can use it, but that germination rate could drop down to 50 to 60%. So there's 2 ways to handle that, right? You could either just put down more seed than the traditional or recommended application rate, or if it's a really big project and you want to make sure that you get it right, you may just want to head over to rosensonline.com and pick up some new seed. So unfortunately, there are a lot of variables to determine whether or not that seed is going to be viable. It absolutely can be, and the germination rate may even be higher than 50 or 60% if it was stored properly. But without knowing exactly where it was in the house, what the humidity level was, what does the seed currently look like, I can't really be sure. But I'll be honest with you, if it was me, I would actually just test it out. I'd take a little bit of the seed, I'd maybe get a small little planter or something like that, get some dirt, put it in, water it, nurture it for a couple of weeks, and if the grass comes up, hey, I know that I can then use that grass in the fall to overseed or to seed my new lawn. The next question is from John. Hi, Tim. What product should I use to kill Japanese stiltgrass at this time of year? My neighbor's stiltgrass is encroaching on my lawn and it has taken hold in a couple of places. When it comes to Japanese stiltgrass, we really recommend BioAdvanced Extreme Crabgrass Killer. It's available over at rosensonline.com, and it's a really effective product at helping kill and control Japanese stiltgrass. Now, unfortunately, unless you're going to kill it in your neighbor's yard as well, there's a very good possibility that this is a battle you're going to have to fight annually. So what I would do, again, head over to Rosens Online, pick up some Extreme Crabgrass Killer. Don't be surprised if you need to put down back-to-back applications. But again, you can definitely use it, and it should help control that Japanese stiltgrass. One thing I will caution you about, though, you didn't tell me where you live, but with some of the extreme temperatures that we're experiencing, there's a lot of of instances, a lot of products out there where you do not want to use it above like 85 degrees, 90 degrees at the absolute most, because it can actually damage the grass as well. So just make sure you read the label really carefully, understand what the temperature is like in your area before you apply it. The third question is from Ash. Tim, can I mow before I apply Extreme Crabgrass Killer Spray, or should I spray then wait a day or two to mow? So when it comes to applying weed killers, you want as much surface area as possible for that chemical to land on the plant. If you mow, what you're really doing is you're cutting down the surface area because you're actually cutting back the weeds, so it doesn't have as many leaves for the chemical to land on. And therefore, it's just not going to be as effective, or it could still be effective, but it's actually going to take longer to kill the plant. So I always recommend people do not mow before you spray. Instead, spray it, apply the chemical to your lawn, wait a couple of days, give that chemical a chance to get on as much surface area of the plant and really start working. Then you can go ahead and mow. And believe me, you will see a huge difference in terms of how quickly and how effective that chemical works if you follow that program. The fourth question is from Mike. Tim, I recently moved to coastal South Carolina. I have a newly sodded lawn installed in May. It is coming along fine. The sod is an Empire Zoysia. Can I still use turf truss on this type of grass? Should I follow a similar maintenance program like I did in Northern Virginia? So turf truss works amazingly well for zoysia grass. And the reason for that is zoysia is a really heavy feeder. And turf truss is very heavy in nitrogen. So that fact alone means that turf truss is a great source of nitrogen and a great fertilizer for your new zoysia sod. Now, in terms of following a similar maintenance program, yes, it's going to be very, very close. But the one thing that's going to maybe change a little bit is just the sheer number of times that you do it. Now, you're in South Carolina, so that grass should stay green a little bit longer than it does, say, in Northern Virginia. However, you need to understand when it's going to go dormant and when it's going to come out of dormancy, and then time your applications. Turf truss lasts up to 13 weeks. So to be safe, what you want to do is, as soon as that zoysia lawn starts to green up in the early spring, put down an application. Then again, wait out 12 to 13 weeks, get down your second application. Wait another 12 to 13 weeks, put down your third application. And at this point, this is where you've got to be really conscious of when it's going to go dormant in that fall or early winter. So based on when it's going to go dormant, you want to make sure that you get that fourth feeding down a couple of weeks before that happens. That'll allow the lawn to kind of absorb some of that nutrition and then store it during that dormant period, which obviously is what really helps the grass's roots get strong. And again, when springtime hits, it's actually going to green up a lot faster than it normally would because it has all that unused nitrogen that it's been storing in its roots. So the best thing I could say is you're definitely going to get 3 feedings down. You're probably going to get 4th. But again, you need to be really careful in terms of the timing of it, simply because I want to make sure that you're maximizing when you're putting it down and making sure that the grass is getting as much of that nutrition as possible. Again, zoysia absolutely loves a heavy nitrogen-based fertilizer. Turf truss is perfect for that. So, ask your neighbors, understand what goes on with your local weather patterns in terms of when it greens up and when it goes dormant, and just plan based off a 12 to 13 week period that turf truss is going to feed your lawn, and you're going to come up with a schedule that's absolutely perfect for you. The final question is from Godfather. Good morning, Tim. Every year, my basil plants seem to start going to seed very early in the summer growing season, and I just don't know why. Can you possibly explain what causes this to happen and how to prevent it? So, a healthy basil plant is going to flower at some point and start producing seeds. So, my guess is you're just growing a very healthy plant, and that's why it's starting to bloom, and that's why it's starting to produce seeds. Now, there's a couple of things you can do here. First of all, and this is the easiest thing to do, is to just pinch off or prune off any of the buds that you see. What happens with basil plants, well, truthfully, what happens with any plant, is when you feed it, it starts, producing more foliage, and then at some point, the process of feeding itself as it pulls in that nutrition from the soil stops going towards the leaves and actually goes towards producing those flowers and producing those seeds. So by actually pinching off or pruning off the flowers, you're actually stopping that process. And what's going to happen is the plant is going to continue to feed the leaves. Now, again, the entire plant, basil plant, is edible. So I'm making an assumption that you want the leaves and not the flower. And obviously you do not want the seeds. So that would be the first thing I'd recommend, is just pinch off the flowers as they start to form. And that'll trigger to the plant to just keep feeding those leaves. The other thing you can do is just kind of take a look at what fertilizer you're using. If you're using something like a Garden Trust, which is an absolutely amazing fertilizer, we recommend it for a number of applications, but it's actually not ideal for basil plants. And the reason for that is a Garden Trust is actually formulated to produce better blooms, to produce more fruit, in this case, the seeds of the basil plant. So Garden Trust is not what you want to use. You would actually be better off using a little bit of Plant Trust to actually allow the basil plant to produce more foliage, bigger and greener leaves, which obviously means they're going to taste better when you harvest them. So again, just pluck off the blooms. That way you're going to prevent the seeds from forming. And then maybe just check, what type of fertilizer you're using. You do not want to use Garden Trust. Again, you're not hurting the plant, but you are encouraging a bigger bloom, more flowers, and obviously more seeds, and you don't want that. So use something like a Plant Trust. You can also use something like Kickstart, which is really going to strengthen the roots and then allow that plant to start taking in more of that Plant Trust nutrition to start producing those bigger leaves. All right, folks, just a couple final thoughts before we wrap up this week's video podcast. Guys, head over to rosensonline.com and take advantage of our Turf Trust Summer Stock Up Special. It's going on right now, but it is ending next week. Guys, you have 1 week. So by this time next Wednesday, we are actually going to be turning off the summer stock up. So if you have not fed your grass this summer, head over to rosensonline.com and take advantage right now. Folks, I got a ton of emails this past weekend, and a lot of them were questions about how to help my grass during this really difficult heat wave that a big portion of the Mid-Atlantic and up and down the East Coast is experiencing. Folks, one of the best ways to protect your grass outside of using Turf Trust would be to put down Kickstart. And that's what I recommended to everyone who sent in an email asking about their lawn. Turf Trust is an organic product. It's going to help the grass in terms of strengthening its roots, and a lawn that has a strong root system is going to stay green. So make sure you head over to rosensonline.com and pick up a couple of bottles and start putting it down once a week. Put it down once a week for the entire month of August, and I would actually go into a couple of weeks of September because it could still be pretty hot. So again, head over to rosensonline.com and pick up Kickstart. The final thing I want to mention to you guys, it came up a little bit today, but I got a number of emails, people putting down disease products, people wanting to know about weed killers to use for the lawn. Folks, make sure you read the labels very, very carefully. We had a couple of instances this past weekend where people were wondering what was going on with their grass. They put down a Bonide Weed Beater Ultra, or they put down an extreme crabgrass killer, and all of a sudden all of their grass is looking damaged. Folks, they didn't read the label. They were experiencing 90, 95 degree heat, and these products cannot be put down in that heat. Same thing with a lot of the disease control products that we sell for your grass. If you put it down and it's too hot, you're going to damage your lawn. So make sure that you understand what you're putting down in your grass, and make sure you just read the label very, very carefully. Now, unfortunately, some of these folks did some serious damage to their lawn. It should come back. Again, we're going to use Kickstart. We're going to use Turf Trust to really try and help it come back. But if they just read the label maybe a little bit more closely, they would have realized that now is not the best time to apply these products, especially during a heat wave. And if they had waited, they may not be dealing with what they're dealing with right now. Folks, as always, if you have questions or comments you'd like to make about this video podcast, please send your email directly to me at tim@rosensonline.com. I respond to each and every email that I get. So again, just give me a couple of days before I respond, but if I receive it, I promise I will get back to you. Folks, I hope you have an amazing rest of the week. Thank you so much for the time that you gave us today to watch this video. God bless.